Good evening. I'm Kristen Welker in Tonight for Leicester. This is traditionally a time for family and for honoring the nation's fallen heroes. But this year, as the death toll from COVID-19 nears 100,000, there are reminders everywhere that this is a Memorial Day unlike any other. Across the country, eager crowds taking advantage of the unofficial start to summer, prompting stern warnings from health officials. But at Arlington National Cemetery, where the president spent part of his day, there were no crowds. Instead, solemn and socially distanced tributes to those who've made the ultimate sacrifice. We have it all covered, and we begin tonight with NBC's Miguel Almaguer.
As Americans mark Memorial Day, crowds gathered at beaches, boardwalks, and swimming pools across the country, a troubling celebration during a national health crisis. At lakes of the Ozarks in Missouri, little social distancing and few were wearing masks. This waterfront community now the center of outrage after a party during a pandemic.
My buddy had said, I heard the place is packed, so let's go by and check it out. So we pull in there, walk through kind of a crowd, go upstairs and look over to the pool. Absolutely packed.
As a restless nation battles quarantine fatigue, more states are easing restrictions, but for some, it came too fast.
This is truly the Wild West. It went from kind of a lockdown to just total chaos.
The resort town of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, flooded by visitors after the state Supreme Court struck down stay-at-home restrictions.
We had to literally close our doors and stop letting people in the building several different times.
On some of the most iconic beaches in Southern California, Memorial Day has always drawn a crowd. But this year, you must wear a mask, a rule hardly enforced and rarely being followed.
There's also rebellion in Texas. In spite of the governor's order, this water park opened. Long lines, no spacing, no masks. With large groups openly defying local mandates, tonight in hard-hit New Jersey, protesters, many shoulder to shoulder without masks, believe the coronavirus lockdown is killing the economy.
This is a sham of a hoax. It's got nothing to do with a virus or safety. It's got everything to do with control.
But there are reasons for concern. At this Great Clips in Missouri, 2 hairstylists worked while sick. Now at least 140 clients have been exposed to the virus, including Eric Chase.
All of this because someone wasn't responsible.
In Alabama today, no holiday for doctors. Cases soaring to some 15,000 so far.
I'm used to taking care of sick patients. I'm used to seeing death in the ICU, but the volume of death and not being able to help my patients is just heartbreaking.
Tonight, as the virus continues to spread, more Americans are enjoying their freedom this holiday weekend. Freedom they could lose again if they don't follow the rules. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Los Angeles.
President Trump spent this Memorial Day honoring the sacrifices of America's servicemen and women, including those who've lost their lives to coronavirus. But the president is also facing some new criticism. Hans Nichols is at the White House.
President Trump marking Memorial Day at Arlington National Cemetery with a presidential tradition on an untraditional day. The cemetery still closed to the public because of coronavirus, but the tomb of the unknown soldier still guarded. Later, at a ceremony at Fort McHenry in Baltimore, President Trump honored the Americans who have succumbed to coronavirus.
As one nation, we mourn alongside every single family that has lost loved ones.
And vowed victory over what he called the invisible enemy.
Together, we will vanquish the virus.
With former Vice President Joe Biden venturing out of his home for the first time in 2 months, paying his respects to the fallen at a war memorial in Delaware. Wearing a mask, a stark contrast to President Trump today. The somber split screen coming on the heels of a political dust-up over the weekend, with the Biden campaign tweeting out a digital ad criticizing the president for golfing during the pandemic. The president defending his outing on Twitter. I played golf over the weekend. The fake and totally corrupt news makes it sound like a mortal sin. And hinting at the next reopening battle, demanding schools in our country should be open ASAP. Most schools have been closed since March, and many have canceled classes for the rest of the year. And in a report to Congress, the Trump administration says it's still relying on the states to expand testing capacity, pledging to buy them 100 million more swabs by the end of the year. Kristen?
Hans Nichols reporting from the White House. Hans, thank you for that. Well, President Trump is also announcing another travel ban, this time barring visitors coming to the U.S. from Brazil, where coronavirus is now spreading faster than anywhere else. Our Bill Neely is there and takes us inside a field hospital on the front lines.
Soccer's World Cup was once played here. Now a global disease is treated here. At a field hospital next to Brazil's biggest stadium, one woman's heart has just stopped. She was brought back to life, but more than 50 have died here in 2 weeks.
This is one of 7 field hospitals going up in Rio alone. The problem is they just can't be built fast enough.
Another wing is ready to open, 200 patients waiting. Ambulances arriving. Doctors have only one word for it.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Now, President Trump has slapped a travel ban, barring any foreigner from entering the US from Brazil starting late Tuesday. His ally, Brazil's president, joined anti-lockdown protesters as the death toll topped 20,000. He took off his mask, hugged children, and called for restrictions to end. Freedom, he said, above all else. Earlier, he was heckled. "Killer," one woman shouted. In the tightly packed homes of Brazil's biggest slum, the virus is on a rampage, lockdown or not. This woman names 4 friends who've died. Amid this poverty, it's spreading faster in this country than anywhere.
Almost 1,000 people are now dying here every day, and many doctors have told me they believe Brazil is a week or 2 away from its peak of infections. Kristen?
Bill Neely, thank you. And back here at home, a fierce battle over reopening houses of worship as health experts fear large gatherings could trigger new outbreaks. Here's Blaine Alexander.
The separation between church and state is facing a new test as houses of worship nationwide fight to open their doors. In Minnesota, with malls starting to reopen, some pastors announced plans to do the same in direct defiance of the state's order. Now, Governor Tim Walz is changing course.
We have a solid plan that, if followed, can keep people safe. It was a compromise.
In Florida, Catholic Mass will be allowed to resume in Miami-Dade and Broward counties starting tomorrow. And the restrictions end today in Cleveland and Atlanta as churches prepare to celebrate Pentecost this Sunday.
We have built a plan to slowly allow people to re-enter our parish buildings.
And today, California Governor Gavin Newsom issued strict new guidelines for churches to reopen in the coming weeks. CDC guidelines recommend limiting shared materials like prayer books or rugs. And rather than passing a collection plate, worshipers are encouraged to use a stationary box or online giving. At Blessed Sacrament Church in Massachusetts, they're taking note.
There are 45 slots in this church that normally seats 600. In order for people to come to church, they have to register.
For weeks, health officials have traced outbreaks to houses of worship. That's why many leaders say it's still too soon.
Right now, it's truly irresponsible to open the doors of our church.
At Cascade United Methodist Church in Atlanta, Pastor Kevin Muriel says this sanctuary could sit empty for months to come. Also empty, more than 500 African Methodist Episcopal churches across Georgia ordered closed until at least mid-June.
If we can ensure that any member or any visitor that comes to Cascade is safe, without any opportunity for the coronavirus to spread within our church, then that's when we'll come back.
Blaine Alexander, NBC News, Atlanta.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.